Hey everyone, this is Phil James and this is my Progressive podcast.
Today you've said that neighbourhood police officers are an endangered species. I have to tell you that this kind of scaremongering does nobody any good. It doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve the officers you represent, and it doesn't serve...
Well, Merseyside are at it again, bragging that they are wasting their resources, their time and our tax money, busting people for growing cannabis, and then they keep bragging about it on their social media, which is this bad habit that a lot of these police stations up and down the country are engaged in at the moment. What really annoys me though is that Merseyside have these almost like bots that always comment positively about those stories, because they all say the same thing. They don't seem to vary. It's always just, oh, well done, and you'll get the odd sort of, oh, thanks for keeping keep that shit off our streets, keep people safe. If you go back and watch that video where I was talking to that policeman from Manchester, he did expose a lot of what the police just don't know about cannabis. I mean, he said things like, as far as I understand it, that you got the good part, which is CBD, and that's fine because it's legal, and then you got the THC, which could give you psychosis. If you happen to be a person that does believe in that propaganda, find me a paper that proves that hasn't been funded by some pharmaceutical industry. And it's not just the pharmaceutical industry that put out a lot of junk science on cannabis. And I've had a lot of bad experiences recently with the CBD industry. And the thing that really triggered it was one morning I woke up and some guy who I think he does sell CBD himself or has a business like that, and he showed me somebody else in his area that sells CBD products, and what he'd done is he'd used images of me, one image where I'm recovering from brain surgery, and next to another image of me from 2017 where I look a lot more healthy, and it's sort of he's changed the text as if it's like a before and after of how his CBD products have like cured me. So he was basically caught lying to sell his product, like false advertising. I mean, he was very apologetic about it because a lot of the cannabis community gave him a lot of stick for that. So thank you to everybody that kind of woke that guy up. I mean, really, until the CBD industry start just entirely replacing their stock with full extract CBD, I kind of consider them in the way of fighting the war on drugs, because they kind of rely on the paradigm that most of the public only know about two cannabinoids, THC and CBD, and a lot of these CBD people, business people, will say things that are really disingenuous, like CBD is the good part and THC is the bad part, and it's just so misleading and wrong. And it's wrong because the only thing that's really therapeutic about cannabis is when you actually experience the entourage effect, and that can only happen with several hundred cannabinoids. So you've got things like CBN, CBG, THCA, CBDA, some of the non-active ones, terpenes and flavonoids and so on. I mean, there's around 480 odd, and so I do find it incredibly annoying when I hear even the police say, oh, to my understanding, it's just CBD is good and THC is bad. When the thing is, THC on its own is not that good. Not that good. It's not harmful, but it's not very therapeutic. You need all 480 cannabinoids. So I kind of wish everyone would just, well, to be frank, I wish everyone would shut up about THC and CBD and just say full extract, and just focus on the full extract, focus on the 480 number. Because if you're dealing with something as serious as cancer like I am, you need that 480. In fact, you need the highest profile you can get, which means that the oil has to be grown properly. The plant has to be grown properly before you make, if you're to make an oil which is going to be of any therapeutic effect. So I'm a big proponent that the UK CSC regulates the entire cannabis market in the UK, because the best growers are in that community, the people that have been growing for decades. You know, they've been in the game a lot longer than any person in a white suit at GW Pharmaceuticals with their spider mite infested greenhouse. See, this is the thing. Merseyside, they need to understand that they're not going to get rewarded for shilling for GW Pharmaceuticals to keep their monopoly with the Conservatives. Because we all know the conflicts of interest, which often always stem from the Home Office. I think in the UK we literally have the most corrupt Home Office we've ever had, really. I mean, it was bad enough when Theresa May was Home Secretary. The amount of stifling of evidence that happened in relation to Operation Yewtree during her time was disgusting, really. Like, why would a prominent Conservative politician want to hide such disgusting crimes like paedophilia? But now the corruption in the Home Office has got so bad that we even have our own drugs minister unable to actually speak on matters of cannabis, because she has a direct conflict of interest with the fact that her husband Paul Kenwood has the only license to grow cannabis, and that's where GW Pharmaceuticals get their stock from. So it's that 45-acre greenhouse in Cambridge. I also understand that the conflicts of interest with the Conservative Party and GW Pharmaceuticals don't end there. I've heard reports that the former Prime Minister's husband, Philip May, had shares in GW Pharmaceuticals stock. So you can see the cycle there. You've got a drugs minister gives her husband, the chairman of British Sugar, the UK's only licence to grow it in a greenhouse next to his British Sugar factory, and then the Prime Minister's husband then benefits because it's then made the UK the biggest exporter of medical cannabis products. And you know, the fact that it's the Prime Minister's husband, but the thing is, it's not, that part is not entirely confirmed, so maybe one of you can help me with that, because as far as I know, the story that Philip May had shares in GW Pharmaceutical stock, I think it broke on RT, and it was reported that it was 19% that he had in their stock. And of course he shouldn't have any stock in relation to GW Pharmaceuticals, given the link to what's happening with the Home Office, because that is a clear corruption cycle where everybody seems to be benefiting. Well, it's a minority benefiting from what's happening, and obviously the whole country is banned from using it medicinally. Despite the fact that Sajid Javid will continually lie that it is legal and available for medical patients. But if that was the case, then they wouldn't still be confiscating it from the parents of children with epilepsy. So it's kind of like, what is Merseyside police getting out of shilling for them like that? Because they're not part of that corruption loop. Nothing in that conflict of interest is ever going to trickle down to anybody that works in any police station in the UK, because the Conservatives kind of just want them to be all privatised anyway. They would rather there was no police in the public sector and that it was all G4S. And shame on the police as well for continually betraying their own side. From what I've heard of former policemen, once you're in the force, you never really leave. And we know that there are people that have had to leave for health reasons, and it's cannabis that's keeping them going. So every time they brag about the fact that they've reduced the amount of cannabis on the market, at the same time they're bragging that they've basically betrayed one of their own, or one of their former. So it's pretty clear that they're going to be continuing to brag about these things, because we see them get reported to the UKCSC group. And but let's come back in their comment section to all those people saying well done to Merseyside police for busting people for growing cannabis, like keeping our streets safe from hippies and chilled out people. Ask them this: if it's such a good job, would they really be saying that if they're being attacked or assaulted and they ring the police but they can't attend to that emergency because they've spent months planning to bust a cannabis grow? Would that member of the public still feel that it's a valuable effort on the police's part to prioritise victimless crimes like growing cannabis over the fact that they're getting attacked and assaulted and possibly getting put in hospital or losing all their possessions in a robbery? I mean, there's a lot of crimes out there that have victims attached as a consequence to them. Now, cannabis is not one of those, because the psychosis myth is propaganda, so it doesn't exist. And we've seen recently that Parliament are again asking for more evidence that cannabis has medicinal benefits. And the cheek of that at this day and age is unbelievable, because the evidence is literally everywhere. I mean, it's not prohibition is running on vapours in terms of science. Most of the proper pure science that's peer reviewed and doesn't have conflicts of interest shows unequivocally that cannabis, when used as a full extract, has very good medicinal qualities to it. So Parliament's got to stop wasting time and lying that they need more evidence. The evidence is there, they're just refusing to acknowledge it, because they're making money from cannabis with their monopoly, and they don't want the public to benefit from that in any way, shape or form. So what I really want to see from the cannabis community going forward on this is call on the police to coup when it comes to the Drugs Act. Stop putting drugs under your remit, because if anything, it's a matter for the health organisations to deal with. It's the idea of criminalising drug use is has never worked anywhere, and that's why it's a law that's dying where it started in the US. I think we can all say with some confidence that if the British Army were suddenly given orders to start creating concentration camps and committing war crimes everywhere, I'm pretty confident that the British Army would coup and not follow those orders. And the British police need to do the same when it comes to cannabis. They need to, show some guts and do the right thing, because what they're doing at the moment is going to harm them. So yeah, we've got to really fight back against police stations like Merseyside. Got to fight back on social media if they're going to come into that domain, and we've got to hit them with the facts. And the most important facts for their own sake is that they don't know that they're shilling for the people that want them gone. That's probably the best where I should leave it. So take care everyone, peace.